Winthrop was a brilliant lawyer, and he becomes the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Company, or the company has a board of directors that the shareholders who choose the governors and the deputies, those who are going to run this. Remember, this is a for-profit enterprise. These investors from England had put money into this hoping to get a return, some more interested in the return they would get than in the souls of these Puritans who were leaving in order to save them. And Winthrop is aware that other colonies had had their charters revoked. The Virginia colony is the one most on his mind, so he does a couple of things to limit the possibility of that happening. One, the charter of the Massachusetts Bay Company doesn't say where the annual meeting will take place. Usually a corporate charter says the annual meeting will happen every year in London or in some other British city. This one leaves that blank. And also, Winthrop wants to make it difficult for the British Crown to get the charter back, so he takes it with him. The charter is on the Arbella. And when they get to the New World, Winthrop opens the first meeting of what becomes the General Court here. So he opens this meeting. The shareholders who are present are allowed to come, but Winthrop also invites all the free men, the men who are not indentured servants, to be part of this. And this becomes the governing body of the colony. What had been a corporate charter becomes the charter of a political body, what Winthrop will call a commonwealth. This is a very important transition from this corporate charter creating the Massachusetts Bay Company into a charter creating the Massachusetts Bay Province or Commonwealth. And Winthrop isn't just the governor appointed by the board of directors, he is the governor elected by the freemen of this enterprise. So it creates an expansive system, a very democratic system, with these adult men now participating in the political life of this colony. So with this first meeting of the General Court, you have the transition or transformation of this corporate charter into really the foundation of a government, a functioning government of the Massachusetts Bay Province. And it's because Winthrop sees a need to get all of these individuals who are part of this society to be participating in it, that you have the creation of this political system out of this corporate system. And they also recognize you can't have 1,200 people all living in this same little place, so they spread out a little. They have one group goes up the Charles River to Watertown. Another group is in Dorchester. In fact, the Dorchester settlers arrived a little first in the summer of 1630. And then you have a group in Charlestown, and then you also have a group that goes over to the Shawmut Peninsula. And then each town is going to have a town meeting. That is, the adult men will meet in the meeting house to decide what the town should be doing. So what happens here is the creation of a local self-government in each of these towns, and they are held together because their ministers will meet together, and they'll meet together in a general court. They will choose deputies to a general court to decide on the overall course the province should take. Now, in addition, you have this problem of surviving. How do you feed the colony? How do you keep this people from starving? They can trade with the native people who are still here, and the native people were able to plant corn and get fish and so on. The English also bring with them cattle, sheep, pigs, animals they're used to raising in England. And they're raising them for meat, for leather, for wool. And those who have come earlier are able to sell their surplus to those who come a little later. Over the 1630s, there is a steady migration from England because of the English Civil War that's happening, the Puritans in England against the Royalists. And so more Puritans come in the 1630s, and that means those who had arrived first are able to sell stuff to those who are coming a little bit later. In 1640, that migration ends because of the end of the English Civil War, the victory of the Puritans. And what happens then is the Puritans have to look for other ways to survive, and they become involved in fishing, gathering codfish off of the coast. building ships. Winthrop, in fact, in the early 1630s, had built a vessel, the Blessing of the Bay, launched it on the Mystic River in the early 1630s, the first Massachusetts-built ship, and they used the Blessing of the Bay to catch codfish and then to trade in the West Indies. And so the salted codfish that's produced here off the coast of New England, that is caught off the coast, dried, salted here on the coast of New England, then is shipped to the West Indies to feed the slave labor force. The British also are involved in colonizing the West Indies and grazing sugar there, and it's the codfish of New England that feeds the slave labor force in the West Indies. Fishing becomes such an important industry in Massachusetts that sometime in the middle of the 18th century, someone gives to the Massachusetts General Court a wooden codfish that's been hanging in the Massachusetts Assembly since the 1700s. It still is there today. When the Democrats control the legislature, it points to their side. When the Republicans have controlled the legislature, it points to their side. But the codfish is there. In fact, when they moved into the new State House in the 1790s, someone carried this wooden codfish at the head of the procession leading up to the new State House. And of course, on top of the State House, there is a pine cone representing the pine forests, because pine is what we make our ships out of, and the ships are what make it possible for the colony to not only survive but prosper. So you have the beginnings in the 1600s of this international commerce that is going to drive the economy of Massachusetts. And it's there because Winthrop is able to see the way the colony will survive is by adapting, by recognizing the circumstances that are possible, coming over with a vision for this community of the godly in the New World, and seeing the reality here in the New World will allow some things but not others, or will allow things different from what we had first imagined. And it's really because of Winthrop's ability to adapt and because of the ability of the Massachusetts colonists to adapt that the colony does, despite all of the hardships and the turmoil of the 17th century, is able to survive and prosper.